Welcome. Today, we're diving into the incredible ways our communities can protect and support the natural world around us. From the trees that cool our neighborhoods and provide habitats for birds, to dark sky initiatives that safeguard migratory paths, and conservation driven development that prioritizes green spaces. There's so much we can do to create thriving, sustainable environments. Join me as we explore how we can all play a role in fostering a balanced relationship with nature right in our own backyards to benefit birds, wildlife, and our own communities for generations to come. For countless generations, birds have been integral to Pueblo culture and art, representing more than just beauty. They embody a deep connection to life itself. This bond is seen in the frequent depictions of eagles with their black-tipped wings and powerful curved beaks, alongside hummingbirds, robins, hawks, wild turkeys, and even roadrunners. Parrots, too, are honored in Pueblo pottery, jewelry, and paintings, illustrating the people's respect for the birds that carry prayers, pollinate crops, and help sustain ecosystems. In Pueblo communities, this respect continues through ceremonial use of feathers, honoring birds and sacred rites. During various feast days in New Mexico, visitors can witness eagle dancers whose graceful wing-like movements to the beat of the drum emulate the eagle's flight and carry blessings to those watching. It's a tradition that serves as a reminder of what we must preserve. Yet history holds its own lessons. Passenger pigeons once filled the skies, with populations between 3 and 5 billion. But by 1914, the last of the species, named Martha, died in captivity, a victim of relentless hunting and habitat loss. Such tragic losses ultimately led to the Endangered Species Act of 1973, which has protected 99% of listed species from extinction, including the national symbol, the bald eagle. Thanks to dedicated scientists, biologists, and ecologists, this invaluable safety net has been upheld to this day. As the climate crisis grows and habitats vanish, however, the limits of these protections are tested. The stakes have never been higher. Earlier this year, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service released a report revealing an unprecedented loss of wetlands, critical to the survival of half of North America's bird species. Likewise, in America's sagebrush country, a sprawling ecosystem of over 175 million acres and home to more than 350 species, including the iconic greater sage grouse, habitat loss has been devastating. In just 20 years, half of this habitat has disappeared due to climate change and rapid development, underscoring the need to act swiftly to protect what remains. Once stretching across vast areas of the United States, native grasslands are now disappearing at an alarming rate, with several consequences. Globally, grasslands are the least protected ecosystem type, and grassland birds are one of the fastest declining bird groups in North America. Many species have lost over 75% of their population since 1970. These natural grasslands act as powerful carbon sinks and provide crucial habitat for numerous bird species during their breeding, migratory, and non-breeding seasons. Yet much of the nation's grasslands have been converted to row crop agriculture, degraded by overgrazing or tree encroachment, or developed for human use. Monocultures of crops like corn and soybeans eliminate habitat, though certain practices, like wildlife-friendly grazing, can help restore these degraded areas. Given the essential role of grazing animals in maintaining healthy grasslands, Smithsonian scientists are collaborating with ranchers, farmers, and land managers to create solutions that benefit both working lands and conservation efforts for grassland birds. Research shows that small changes can make a big difference. Delaying hay harvests by a few weeks can save countless birds, while lowering the stock densities of grazing animals and adopting improved grazing practices can greatly enhance nesting success for grassland birds. Long-term recovery of these ecosystems will rely on restoring native vegetation and reintroducing keystone species like bison and prairie dogs, both of which play a vital role in supporting grassland bird populations. Even for those outside agricultural communities, there are ways to support grassland conservation. Sustainable choices at the grocery store can help protect these ecosystems. Reducing meat consumption or opting for beef from ranchers that practice grass fed, grass finished methods can support critical grasslands while also reducing the carbon footprint associated with cattle. In October and November, saw-whet owls migrating south through the Appalachian forests of central Pennsylvania hear a call that leads them into delicate mist nets, carefully set up by a volunteer research team. For nearly 30 years, this team has been studying the migration patterns of these small owls, briefly detaining them to record their weight and measurements before releasing them again, each outfitted with a lightweight numbered leg band. In total, more than 13,000 of these little mouse hunters have been banded. Many have been recaptured later by researchers across the migration path, providing insights into the owl's habitats and movements. The data also reveals a concerning trend. As the climate warms, the timing of these owls' autumn migrations has shifted noticeably within just a few decades. Last year, the team's findings showed a marked shift in the timing of the owl's migrations later and later in the autumn since the early 1990s, a trend that aligns almost perfectly with a similar delay observed in day-flying raptors such as hawks, eagles, and falcons, whose migrations have shifted about a day per decade. This change is part of a larger phenomenon known as phenology, which is the study of timing in nature. Across North America, seasonal patterns are shifting, with significant impacts on natural events like bird migration. While some species, such as northern saw-whet owls, are adjusting their migration timing, a growing body of research suggests that birds are often falling further behind, potentially jeopardizing their long-term survival. Though the owl study focuses on autumn, the clearest examples of this mismatch appear in spring. Spring is now arriving weeks earlier than in past decades, with trees leafing out and insects emerging sooner each year. However, billions of migratory birds like warblers, vireos, thrushes, hummingbirds, and orioles rely on a genetically ingrained migration schedule as they travel from the tropics of Latin America and the Caribbean to North America to breed. For these songbirds, even a slight misalignment in timing can result in a phenological mismatch. The early summer insect abundance they rely on to feed their chicks may have already passed by the time their young are hungriest. The effects of this mismatch have already been documented in the pied flycatcher, a migratory bird that winters in tropical Africa and breeds in European oak forests. Between the mid-1980s and early 2000, rapid warming in April and May threw the flycatchers out of sync with the caterpillars they depend on to feed their young, leading to population declines of up to 90% in some areas. One unexpected effect of climate change is that some regions, like parts of the eastern and central Canadian Arctic, may actually experience colder late winters and early springs, even as summer temperatures rise. For Hudsonian godwits, long-legged shorebirds migrating 9,000 miles from South America to the Arctic, this change is a serious obstacle. Arriving on schedule only to find the landscape still frozen, their nesting season is delayed. When summer arrives, the heat triggers an early insect emergence, outpacing the needs of the godwit chicks, leaving many of them without sufficient food for survival. It is becoming starkly evident that the changing seasons in North America are reshaping the timing of natural events like bird migration, leading to complex challenges for many species. Migration for birds is a response to seasonal shifts in daylight, temperature, and food availability. When they arrive at their breeding grounds, it's to coincide with the spring emergence of insects and other prey needed to lay eggs and nurture their youngs. For Arctic birds, these migrations are often epic journeys, like the Arctic Tern's incredible 18,000-mile round trip from Antarctica to the Arctic Circle. Unfortunately, the Arctic is warming faster than any other biome on Earth, and this rapid change threatens the alignment of food availability with the bird's arrival. Some species may need to migrate earlier to match their breeding with peak food abundance, while others may miss this essential window, making it difficult to raise healthy chicks. Smithsonian scientists are working to understand these shifts by using tracking devices and accelerometers to study the intricate relationship between birds' movements and their changing environment. These migratory Arctic birds include seabirds, shorebirds, and songbirds that travel across the United States on their routes. Helping these birds means supporting their habitats, both in the Arctic and here at home. Simple actions like choosing eco-friendly transportation options, such as carpooling, public transit, or biking, and supporting renewable energy can help reduce carbon emissions that contribute to climate change. When these birds pass through our forests, grasslands, and coastlines, we can further support them by following tips that protect the natural spaces they visit throughout the year. North American bird populations are facing a steep decline. A recent analysis of trends across the US and Canada reveals a troubling picture. Since 1970, bird numbers have dropped by 30%, amounting to a loss of nearly 3 billion individual birds. This decline is driven by multiple threats, many of which are exacerbated by human-caused climate change, a problem that is projected to worsen in the coming years, with increasingly adverse impacts on bird populations. Reducing carbon emissions remains one of the most crucial steps to protecting birds from climate change. Yet there are other vital measures people can take. Bird populations within protected areas, such as national parks, have shown greater resilience than those across the continent as a whole. Caring for these protected areas plays a significant role in safeguarding bird species, as parks shield birds from many non-climate stressors like predation by feral cats, collisions with buildings, and habitat conversion to agriculture or urban areas. Additionally, parks can offer crucial buffers against climate change. For instance, old-growth forests in the western U.S., with their towering trees and multi-layered canopies, create cooler microclimates that support species like Wilson's warbler and hermit warbler, both of which are highly sensitive to rising temperatures. Climate change is creating a cascade of new stressors for birds, particularly along coastal areas. Since 1823, when the Navy moved to Key West, sea level rise has been documented along the Atlantic coast. Even small increases in sea level can reshape beach widths and alter the depth of coastal waters where shorebirds and wading birds feed. Global warming intensifies extreme heat waves and raises ocean temperatures, leading to more powerful tropical storms with increased rainfall that reduces the salinity of estuaries. Warmer waters also spur harmful algae blooms, resulting in die-offs of seagrass, fish kills, and the tragic deaths of birds. During a bloom in 2015, over 300 brown pelicans perished. One memorable example is Hugo, a great blue heron known to arrive on a dock every October 1 and depart each March 1. Named after Hurricane Hugo, which delayed his migration in 1989, Hugo became a reminder of the precise rhythms of bird migration, guided by the angle of the sun. Birds are unaware of impending weather, but rely on ancient migration cues. Yet, as climate patterns shift, the journey becomes more challenging, adding extra strain to an already demanding trip that can span thousands of miles. Florida's iconic pink species, the roseate spoonbills, are also adapting to a changing climate. Once entirely eradicated in Florida by the late 19th century, these bright pink birds, prized for their feathers, made a gradual return to the Everglades after receiving protection. However, by the early 1990s, many wading birds began leaving this heavily impacted ecosystem and migrating north. A recent study from the National Audubon Society paints a concerning picture. Two-thirds of North American bird species are now at risk of extinction due to climate change. Shifting weather patterns disrupt the delicate niches each species has depended on for survival, and as habitats shrink, competition for limited resources grows, creating a difficult environment for many species. While many think of migratory warblers, orioles, and tanagers as our birds, they actually spend the majority of the year in the tropics, only traveling north for a few months to breed. This shared migration means we hold a joint responsibility with our southern neighbors to protect these species. Neotropical migratory songbirds make remarkable journeys each year to Central and South America, returning north when warmer weather arrives. However, much like in North America, urbanization and agricultural expansion in the tropics are reducing vital habitat at both ends of their migration routes. Despite the ongoing deforestation in these biodiverse tropical forests, there is a solution. Smithsonian research has shown that coffee and cocoa can thrive under the shade of native trees, preserving essential habitats for resident and migratory birds alike. To support this effort, the Smithsonian has established the Bird Friendly Certification, a gold standard in environmental farming practices that ensures coffee and cocoa farms protect biodiversity. Certified bird-friendly farms are free from pesticides, certified organic, and maintain a diverse array of native plants and trees that sustain bird populations. This certification also empowers farmers to negotiate higher prices for their eco-friendly crops, making bird-friendly coffee and cocoa better for birds, farmers' livelihoods, and the planet. One spring not long ago, New Jersey Audubon hired a team of field technicians whose task was to find black rails in the state's high salt marshes. Yet, despite all efforts, the elusive birds were never found. Imagine this search: paddling out into the dark, guided by marsh wrens chattering in the reeds and an eastern whippoorwill singing faintly from unseen trees. Stars reflect off the inky black saltwater channels. The GPS confirms the route to the night's designated transect, and the black rail calls are queued up to play. The salt marsh is vast, offering an unexpectedly wide, open view across the Garden State. The neon lights of Atlantic City shine in the distance. Heat lightning pulses, and countless fireflies flicker green. On the 4th of July, fireworks light up every little beach town. Once, a pair of owl eyes stares back through the dark. Once, a young salt marsh sparrow appears on the ground, its tiny body illuminated by the headlamp. It's a small survivor of tidal floods, storms, and hungry predators. That one sighting brings unexpected joy, as hearing the salt marsh sparrow's hauntingly unmusical song had become increasingly rare. Time after time, notes are jotted on data sheets, recording every bird call during the nightly counts. Over and over, the recordings play, while a weathered clipboard fills with observations. When one transect becomes too flooded to cross, frustration builds. It's already underwater, the mud is impassable, and it's impossible to push through. Some nights, thick plumes of smoke loom on the horizon. A wildfire, not a controlled burn. A damp kerchief is tied over the nose and mouth as the team rushes to finish and paddle back through the smoky haze, with thousands of acres of pine barrens blazing upwind. One night, a stranded great shearwater is left behind, as another vulnerable species awaits to be found, struggling against the rising tides. The shearwater is gone when they return. Morale is kept high for the teammates' sake. Spotting a black rail would be a first for him. It's a hope they can't quite let go of, although thoughts already drift towards learning the calls of the limpkin, once a southern Florida native, but now appearing further north as invasive snails and warming waters drive its expansion. If a black rail can't be found, anything else will do. But in the end, no black rail appears. Months later, a report confirms a single black rail call recorded by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at one of their study sites. There's some comfort in knowing at least one held on in New Jersey that season. The search, however, isn't truly over, as black rail calls linger on, heard in their dreams. Though we often think of shorebirds and seabirds as part of beachscapes or soaring across open oceans, these remarkable birds are deeply connected to ecosystems across America. Throughout the year, they move across tundra, wetlands, coastal habitats, grasslands, and even tropical forests, illustrating their vast ecological reach. Everyday choices have a direct impact on these birds. Protecting coastal habitats from overdevelopment and selecting sustainably sourced seafood are essential steps to support not only seabirds and shorebirds, but other marine life as well. Even those living far from the coast can make a difference. Reducing single-use plastics helps keep beaches and oceans clean, while eliminating toxic chemicals in the home and garden prevents pollutants from eventually reaching the sea. Disposing of medications, cleaning products, and other chemicals safely, never down the drain, also protects these vital marine habitats. Desert birds live on the edge, where survival is a delicate balance. In summer, temperatures can soar to over 115 degrees, lethal levels, and in drought years, as little as an inch of rain may fall. To endure, Phainopeplas and other desert birds have adapted to nest during the cooler winter months, relying on the hope that enough rain will produce flowers or insects to sustain their young. If necessary, they can go for weeks without drinking, surviving on nectar, fruit, or metabolic water produced by digesting proteins from insects. As June arrives and the desert becomes uninhabitable, most birds migrate elsewhere and cease breeding. Remarkably, Phainopeplas reappear miles away in oak and sycamore woodlands, where they start courting and nesting anew, raising a second brood, a rare strategy for navigating the cycles of abundance and scarcity in desert life. Costa's hummingbirds perform aerial displays, streaking through the air in great arcs, while Gambel's quail dart among rocks, their head plumes bobbing as they shepherd their chicks. In more fruitful years, Phainopeplas can be seen plucking berries from desert mistletoe, darting from treetops to catch insects in flight, and bringing food back to their young. But in dry years, the mistletoe is barren, and insects become scarce. Some birds attempt nesting, but ultimately abandon their territories, leaving eggs and chicks behind. During 5 years of study, 2 years ended in widespread nesting failures. For most desert birds, the opportunity to raise young comes only once per year, relying on the promise of rain in the next season. Researchers at UC Berkeley have documented the collapse of bird communities in the Mojave Desert, largely due to climate change. In the Mojave, Nearly half of the bird species surveyed have vanished over the past 50 to 100 years. Nationwide, arid land bird species have declined by 26% since 1970. The primary culprits are habitat loss from development, drought, fires, and invasive species that frequently follow in the wake of burns. But it's not only birds at risk. In 2023, the world saw its hottest year on record. Should global temperatures rise by 2 degrees Celsius or 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit by the century's end, the Lancet Countdown's 2023 report predicts a 360% increase in heat related deaths worldwide and 525 million more people facing food insecurity within the next 25 years. 3.6 degrees. It may not sound like much, but desert birds already existing at the edge of survival are an early warning of what a hotter planet holds for all life. We are, all of us, on the brink of a fragile but vital balance. Earth, our oasis in this vast universe, is uniquely equipped with just enough water and the right range of temperatures to support life. Though our planet is warming, we still have the power to cool it. While birds are vanishing, they continue to sing. There is time yet to restore them, for their sake and for ours. Urban areas, where we live and work, can support birds and other wildlife, but they also present unique challenges. Free-roaming cats and collisions with windows are two of the most significant direct threats to birds in urban communities. Each year in the U.S., cats kill over 2 billion birds, and window collisions are responsible for up to 1 billion bird deaths. Indirect factors also significantly impact bird populations. For instance, caterpillars, a crucial food source for young birds, have declined due to widespread pesticide use and the prevalence of non-native plants in yards and public spaces, which many caterpillars cannot digest. Light pollution compounds the issue of window collisions, as nocturnal migratory birds are often drawn to artificial lights and may mistake reflections on windows for perches. Additionally, diseases, which spread at bird feeders, add further stress to urban bird populations. Habitat loss, manicured lawns, and impervious surfaces, such as roads and parking lots, limit urban areas' ability to sustain bird populations. There are many ways to make towns and cities more bird-friendly. Keeping cats indoors prevents predation on birds, while installing window treatments and reducing light pollution helps prevent collisions. Avoiding pesticides, incorporating native plants in landscaping, and regularly cleaning bird feeders all contribute to birds' resilience in urban settings. Increasing tree cover and green spaces, especially in cities, can create essential habitats. In fact, the space occupied by our built environment is larger than any national park, offering a vast opportunity to enhance well-being for both people and birds. Trees are not only remarkable for their environmental benefits, they also serve as vital habitat for countless bird species, especially in urban areas where natural spaces are limited. In cities, trees provide essential nesting sites, shelter, and food sources, supporting a diversity of birds that might otherwise struggle to find suitable habitats. Their branches and leaves create a sanctuary where birds can rest, nest, and safely raise their young away from many urban threats. This dual role of trees as environmental protectors and habitat providers underscores their value as urban infrastructure. They play an essential role in reducing stormwater runoff as their roots absorb rainwater that would otherwise flow into city drains, helping to prevent flooding and soil erosion. Beyond that, trees are incredibly effective at absorbing and storing carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that contributes to global warming. By pulling this carbon from the air and storing it in their wood and leaves, trees actively work to reduce the urban carbon footprint, making them invaluable in the fight against climate change. In addition to capturing carbon, trees create cool, shaded areas which help reduce energy demand in buildings. The shade they provide can lower nearby air temperatures, decreasing the need for air conditioning and reducing overall energy costs. But trees cool our environment in another remarkable way through a process called evapotranspiration. As they take in water through their roots, they release it into the air from their leaves in a cooling vapor, which helps moderate local temperatures. This natural cooling effect cleans and refreshes the air, creating healthier, more comfortable urban environments. They create pockets of biodiversity, making cities more welcoming for wildlife. The process of evapotranspiration also benefits birds, creating a more comfortable microclimate and supporting the delicate ecosystem many urban birds rely on. Recognizing trees as essential infrastructure in a city not only enhances the well being and sustainability of urban spaces for people, but also nurtures the rich bird life that brings vibrancy and life to our communities. The city of Groveland, Florida exemplifies a commitment to responsible, balanced development that respects both natural and community needs. Their mission statement captures this harmony, describing Groveland as an ecosystem intentionally connecting safety, service, and innovation to support a vibrant, welcoming community with natural charm. Rather than encouraging unchecked urban sprawl, Groveland's approach is carefully crafted to protect its unique eco-agrarian character. Their comprehensive plan ensures that 60% of lands within the city's utility boundary are protected for conservation or agriculture, underscoring their core values of intentionality and connectivity. This thoughtful plan not only preserves green spaces, but also supports a healthy ecosystem for both people and wildlife. To further its conservation goals, Groveland is exploring partnerships with the county through a joint planning agreement to prioritize and protect the city's most valuable natural parcels. This collaborative approach, rooted in values of vitality and heart, aims to secure designated conservation lands and potentially establish conservation parks, creating a sustainable legacy for future generations. With these intentional and innovative efforts, Groveland is fostering a diverse community and thriving ecosystem, preserving its natural charm and supporting both the human and animal residents who call it home. Groveland's vision for conservation doesn't end there. The city's Parks Master Plan incorporates conservation lands into an interconnected park system, making nature accessible and integrated into daily life. Additionally, Groveland is pioneering a dark sky lighting initiative, aiming to minimize light pollution and protect the night sky. By encouraging lighting designs that reduce unnecessary brightness, Groveland is safeguarding the night environment crucial for many bird species. Excessive light can disorient nocturnal migratory birds, leading them off course and into harm's way. By committing to dark sky principles, the city is creating safer, more natural conditions for migratory birds and promoting a healthier balance between urban areas and the wildlife that shares them. Residents across the country have the power to make a meaningful impact on local conservation efforts by advocating for dark sky programs and development plans that prioritize natural preservation. By reaching out to city councils, county boards, and state representatives, individuals can express their desire for sustainable growth that respects both urban needs and environmental balance. Many communities are already finding that implementing dark sky initiatives not only reduces light pollution, but also protects migratory birds and other wildlife, ensuring they're not only disoriented or led off course by artificial lighting. For residents, supporting dark sky principles is a simple but powerful way to help protect the nocturnal skies that birds and countless other species depend on for safe passage. Beyond lighting, advocating for conservation focused development plans can help communities shape growth in ways that protect essential green spaces. Local councils and representatives often welcome public input, especially when it reflects a strong community interest in environmental sustainability. By encouraging these leaders to implement programs that protect key habitats and natural landscapes, residents can help preserve the integrity of their area's ecosystems. Conservation focused plans not only safeguard the habitats of birds and other wildlife, but also enhance quality of life for the entire community by providing green spaces, cleaner air, and natural beauty that benefits all. Working together, citizens and leaders can build a future where cities and nature thrive side by side.